Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Asila Sobirova, and today I want to talk about something that quietly changed our lives more than we realize: the way we try and often fail to change ourselves. We rarely notice how much of our daily stress, guilt, and self-doubt is connected to the struggle, not because we lack dreams, but because we struggle to align our actions to those dreams. I want to start my speech with a question. Have you ever promised yourself that this time you would change? A new year or a new month or even a new Monday, you promise yourself that you'll study harder, live healthier, you'll wake up early or be more disciplined. And for a short time, you'll truly believe it. But most of the time, we fail. Unexpected homework, fatigue, distraction, stress, social pressure, small things slowly pull you back into familiar routines. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. In fact, the cycle is universal. The psychologists have studied it for decades. It appears in students, professionals, athletes, even so successful people. Yet, statistics show that about 90% of people fail to keep their resolutions. Real question is not why you want to change. Question is why change is so hard. If nearly everyone struggles, perhaps the issue is not one character, the human nature itself. One major reason is that we start too big. At the beginning, we try to change everything at once. We push ourselves so hard and expecting instant transformation. But our brains are not designed for sudden dramatic change. When effort feels overwhelming, we feel exhausted before we even build momentum. For example, if we want to start exercising, we run 5 kilometers at a time, and then we feel tired and we'll just give up. And we'll wait for another perfect chapter to begin. Another reason why we fail is something called present bias. This means our brain prefers comfort now more than rewards later. Even if we know what's good for us in the future, at the moment we choose what feels easier or nicer. For example, sleeping instead of studying, or scrolling our phones instead of exercising, or delaying instead of starting. And the next mistake we do is relying too much on motivation. Motivation feels great at first, but it's temporary. It's like a battery. It never lasts forever. It runs out. And when it fades, we lose the energy to keep going. And we think that waiting just will change us. But time doesn't change us, the action does. And this isn't just something I have observed in others. I have lived it myself. I once set very high expectations of myself, believing that a strong motivation alone would keep me forward. At first, it worked. Then it didn't. Not because I wasn't capable, because I expected too much, too fast, and my brain wasn't ready for that jump. Like many people, I confused intensity with sustainability. What felt powerful at the start becoming impossible to maintain. That's when I realized something important. The problem wasn't the discipline, the problem was the strategy. Failure wasn't the proof of weakness, it was feedback about design. So instead of waiting for a magical new beginning, let's talk about what actually works. Not dramatical transformation, but the practical, repeatable change. Now I want to give 3 rules of working resolutions. There are not right ideas, but principles grounded in behavioral science and everyday experience. Not dramatical transformation, but the practical, repeatable change. Now I want to give 3 rules of working resolutions. There are not right ideas, but principles grounded in behavioral science and everyday experience. Rule number 1, tiny habits. Our goal is to make the action so small that you'll be ashamed not to do it. For example, don't promise yourself to study for 3 hours. Promise yourself to study for 10 minutes. Don't promise yourself to run for 5 kilometers. Promise yourself to put on your sneakers and go outside. Small actions don't scare our brains. They help us to continue our habit. The second rule is 2-day rule. For example, skipping 1 day is an accident and it's normal, but never skip 2 days in a row. Skipping 1 day is accident, but skipping 2 days is the beginning of new habit, the habit of doing nothing. Rule 3, system over goals. Goal is the finish line. It shows where you want to arrive. but the system is what you do every day. It's a small routine that moves you forward. For example, if you want to write a book, your goal shouldn't be writing a book. Your system should be something simple and clear, like write for 10 minutes while drinking my morning coffee. Goals give the direction, but the system creates progress. When you focus on the system, the goal will take care of it itself. If you really want to change, don't wait for the perfect time. There is always another Monday, another month, or a new year. Waiting feels safe, but often delays growth indefinitely. But the real change doesn't begin there. It begins the moment when you stop waiting. Because the moment you stop waiting, stop waiting for life. And that's when you start living. Thank you.